be like, man, what you do is so crazy. I can't believe it. And I'm like, you're driving a forklift around like $1 million aircraft. I would never do that.
They're like, where do we put this like really toxic person? Oh, in charge of all the new people to really corrupt their mind? That.
Of a shock, but then also like just excited for the adventure. Like my first time on an airplane was going to basic training.
Oh, wow.
Like flying to Texas.
I'm like, well, as leaders, we shouldn't be setting people up for failure. Like we should be setting them up for success. And they're like, all right, we'll give them another go. Welcome to the In the Field podcast, where we speak to veterans, service members, and those in the transition process to learn about their stories. Devan, thanks so much for being on the podcast. Where are you coming in from today? Coming
in from Palo Alto, sunny Palo Alto, California, which I know you're familiar with.
Yep. Well, first question I ask all my guests is, when was the last time you had an MRE?
Last time I had an MRE, probably, 2019.
Okay.
So pretty recently. These look very familiar to me.
I was going to say, 2019. I feel like these are probably the same brands.
Yeah.
I usually say, like, are you feeling nervous, trepidatious? But I guess 2019 is now almost 6 years ago. Were you a particular fan of MREs or dreading them?
Yeah, I was, which is hilarious, especially as an Air Force guy.
That's probably the first time I've heard of an Air Force person saying they either had MREs or liked MREs.
Yeah, not bad. It's all the nutrition you need, and it's very easy. I think I'm a creature of comfort, so If we can just open one of these bad boys up and eat it.
Awesome. Which one did you go for?
I went for beef ravioli, which is actually probably top 3 for me.
That is a good one.
Yeah, I would say my favorite is, there's like a pasta one, like pasta meat sauce one. That's really, really good.
Cheese and tortellini or like
good.
Just pasta and like tomato sauce?
No. Oh man, now I'm blanking on what it's called. But
all right.
I don't know.
Close enough. I feel like, close enough. I'll go with Italian sausage with peppers and onions and marinara sauce. I have had this one before, but the unfortunate thing is, like, I think we've now recorded enough episodes that I've had at least a bite of every single MRE from both the A box and the B box.
I did see a beef patty in there. And when it gets down to the end, are you going to do it?
We do a bite. We do. I've had I think I saw that it was the jalapeno one, and we have had that one, and it's fine. It's okay. As we open these up, I would love to hear kind of the story of Devan. Like, how do you get into the Air Force? What was it like growing up, and what were some of the impacts in your life that made military service seem like a good option?
Yeah, so I grew up in the panhandle of Florida, this little town called Fort Walton Beach that many military people are familiar with. It's right between Eglin and Hurlburt. It's just south of Duke for Army people. So I grew up there, very low income background, like poor childhood. I'll say a drug-filled and violent home.
Right.
So actually decided to leave home at 14, stayed with some friends through high school, was very lucky enough to have friends with amazing parents that helped me out through that time. So probably around junior year of high school, I started to realize that college wasn't in the cards for me. Looking back, maybe that's probably not true, but I didn't have any mentors to tell me, if I told my story, you could get in and scholarships exist. So my equation was, I don't have money, so I'm not going to college. So I started looking at other options. Obviously, the military was there, a couple of huge bases. And so I started talking to friends' parents who had served and was like, this is really neat. I heard the same thing from just about every single one of them. And that was if I could go back and do it again, I would have flown planes. I would have done SF. I would have done EOD, all these jobs. So I started looking into that stuff. Around this time, I saw a flyer in the gym that I was working out at for help a disabled veteran. And I ended up connecting with this vet who was blind, and he was blinded defusing an IED in the Middle East. And so one thing that he told me really struck me, which was he wouldn't change it. He's the people I met, the lessons I learned, all of those things shifted my life in such a positive way that it was kind of worth my eyesight.
Right.
And that stuck with me really hard. And that was kind of the day that I decided that I was going to go be an EOD tech. And so I took a very different path than most people. I went to the strip mall, the classic strip mall where everybody enlists. Every town has one. And I went door to door and just talked to all the branches. And I was like, this is the job I want to do. What does it look like to get there?
Right.
The Marine Corps, you have to serve like 4 or 6 years and reach a certain rank to go into EOD. You can't enlist into it. And so that was kind of immediately out for me. The Army recruiter told me that I could leave in like a week and then kept calling me after. So I just felt a little too eager.
He was really trying to hit his numbers.
Yeah.
He missed quota that month.
Yeah. And then the Navy and the Air Force both just sounded so interesting to me and like the most interesting mission. And you could also go straight in as EOD.
Yeah.
And I did some research and found out, I don't know how familiar you are with the Navy recruiting process, but if you wash out of a school like that, you go undesignated for a few years where you mop and chip paint and things.
Yeah.
And I was like, that sounds pretty terrible. So I hedged my bets with the Air Force and enlisted.
I'm not going to lie. I did not realize the Air Force had EOD techs.
Yeah. Yeah. Every branch.
So door to door, how long between like talking to the recruiters and you going like Air Force seems like the right approach did it take?
Probably like a week of thinking.
Really? Wow. Okay.
I mean,
how old were you now? So 17 or 18?
17.
Okay.
Yeah. And then honestly, like most of the advice that it lined up to with all my friends' parents, no matter what branch they were in, they were like, if I went back, I would do these specific jobs and I would join the Air Force. So I got kind of lucky there.
Yeah. I mean, you did the right call. I mean, I don't regret the Army whatsoever, but when I became JFO qualified, I then met all the like Air Force JTACs.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, you have like better gear than me, staying in nicer places, and are doing like what I seemed or perceived as like cooler things. I'm like, if I were to do it again, I'd go Air Force JTAC.
Yeah.
Like, and so it sounded like it was like just very circumstantial, and then just maybe like access to some resources. Like, were you exploring other options, or was it just like military, one of these branches, and like that's it?
Yeah, I mean, my goal was like, how do I get to college? And so I knew that was very clear. It was like, all right, like the military will pay for college is what I knew. I had a few friends whose parents were like really pushing me like guard, reserve, like showing me those options. And I just like, it wasn't interesting to me. I was like, I want to go do something full time and like really get away from home, as many enlistees do. And so, yeah, I think I was exploring up until the point I met that guy, and what he said stuck with me. And at that point, I was like, I'm going to join the military. I'm going to do EOD. And through that, I will like get my degree.
Were you a good student in like high school?
No.
Really?
Yeah, I was working 3 jobs, right? I didn't have a car, so I was like relying on friends to get a ride anywhere.
Right.
My GPA was like 1.8 when I graduated, like very terrible, right? And I think for the longest time, I think a lot of enlisted vets can identify with this, is like, I just thought it was me. I was like, oh, I'm just not smart.
Yeah.
I don't have it in me. Not even like stopping to think that many of our life circumstances are very different than the people we meet at school.
I'm curious, because I was in a similar, so when I was a terrible student as well. When I did the ASVAB and I had the like list of MOSs I can go into, EOD was on there. And because I was bad at school, I was like, I don't trust myself enough to do this. And like Forward Observer felt like enough intelligence where I'm like, I wanted to do something that wasn't just pure like infantry. So like a little, I guess, like intelligence driven like MOS, but then EOD felt like a little too far. What gave, and this is going to sound like a weird question, what gave you the confidence that you'd be smart enough to do EOD? And I don't mean that in like a negative way, just like if you're like struggling with school and kind of thinking like, oh, maybe it's just me. How did you reconcile that with the MOS, or did you just think like, I trust their training, like they'll get me there? Yeah.
I think primarily ego was part of it. Like, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't. I think I felt like a little bit of a failure watching my friends get into colleges and like knowing that they're going off to do that. And so I was like, I need to go do something hard. If I don't go do something hard, then I am not like on par with my peers, right?
Yeah.
That was definitely part of it. And then, like, to be frank, like where I came from in my household, I was like, I'm probably not going to make it to 24 or 25 anyways. And so why not like go do something that like really served my country, put myself in harm's way to do good with this life. And then it turns out I still have all my fingers and toes. So apparently I'm okay.
Did okay. I, not to make light of it, but I just saw a video the other day and it was about EOD and like somebody made a comment. It's like, you know, something like along the lines of like, with EOD, it's either you're right the first time or it's no longer your problem. Like, I guess like, it's like, yeah, I mean, listen, it's a 50-50. It's either works or it doesn't. And suddenly it's not my issue anymore.
Yeah. All the time in the joint environment, like we'd be like loading stuff on a plane and somebody would be like, man, what you do is so crazy. I can't believe it. And I'm like, you're driving a forklift around like $1 million aircraft. I would never do that. Like I'm not trained to do that. Like that's scary. You mess up, I don't know, like how much are they going to charge you or dock your pay? I mess up. Yeah, not my problem anymore.
I mean, it's funny. I don't know if it's a difference of mentality or just like the situations you get placed into where it's like once you're in the situation, you're like, it is what it is. But then when you look at others, like it's always just like other people looking at other situations. How long between when you kind of decided and you kind of enlisting? Because if you're at 17, you know, you need your parents' signature. If you know you're not living with your parents, like how are you either convincing them or are you just like, okay, I made my decision, now I have to wait till my 18th birthday? Yep,
just that. Made the decision, waited. I signed like right around my 18th birthday. Was supposed to leave, like dislocated my shoulder, which as you know was like, my recruiter was like, you shouldn't have told me this. I was like, didn't know. So he had to do a bunch of paperwork. I had to go see a doctor and get the signature saying that it was just like a single event. So I got pushed back 9 months. So I graduated high school, worked for 9 months, part-time jobs, and then ended up leaving.
They didn't tell you just to, oh, sorry, hold on. What was I going to say? They didn't just say like, I didn't hear that. People, or was it at MAPS where it got disclosed?
No, it was the recruiter.
Oh man. I'm surprised the recruiter wasn't like, I just didn't hear that.
I know. I was very surprised too.
18, do you finish off high school?
I did. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was like, again, 1.8 GPA, nothing to like write home about, but I was like very happy that I completed high school and got.
Did you feel proud? Like graduating, or was it just like, oh, finally I'm like out?
No, I think I felt proud. It was up until that point, it was like I've been juggling all these things, like the family stuff, school, work. And so just to be able to, I think, close one of those chapters and know that like I made it and now I can like focus on work and make a little bit more money so that I can, you know, move into a better place or have like reliable food on the table was like just nice. So yeah.
How long between graduating and leaving in the Air Force? Basic training?
Yeah.
Boot camp?
Yeah, either. Interchangeable.
Yeah. College?
Yeah, so like July and then left in March, so about 9 months.
Okay. Oh, okay. So that kind of coincided with the whole dislocating the shoulder, all that, I guess. Okay. How did it feel that lead up? Like, were you just like, get me out of here? Like, were you feeling nervous? And, you know, one thing I tend to ask, especially like the enlisted guest is like, were you the, like, let me watch every single movie and every single like National Geographic or History Channel, like surviving the cut? Or are you kind of just like, hey, like, let's just see what happens?
Yeah, no, I didn't watch any of the movies or anything like that, but I was like very, very dedicated to just like prepping. And so, I mean, having those two bases there, you're lucky enough when you dep in, like at least my local recruiter, if you've signed the contract, they give you like a base pass. And so I was able to go use the gym on base while I was
not
in
a CAC card.
No, it's just like a piece of paper with your ID and they let you
No
in.
way.
And so I was able to go use like AFSOC facilities and like go train, and I would be in the sauna and meet like operators that were instructors and just like get tips and stuff. So didn't do any of the like Hollywood, any of that, but was like going and working out once or twice a day around work and trying to like eat healthy. And I was like, that's the other thing. I was, when I first walked into the Air Force recruiter, when I knew the Air Force was the thing I was going to do, the first thing I did, they put me on a scale. So there's minimums and maximums for weight based on your height. And so I'm 6'2". I weighed like, I think like 118 pounds. And they were like, dude, like you gotta be 132. Like you gotta put on weight. And so it was legitimately I lived with my cousin at the time, and we just visited for the holidays, and he brought it up in front of my wife, who did not know this story. He was like, you remember when you just used to drink a gallon of milk and eat cans of tuna every day? And I was like, yeah, and to gain like 20 pounds. So yeah, I was like pretty religious about work, gym, eat as much as possible.
You had me beat. I was 5'11" and 120, so by a fairly substantial margin, actually, man. Did you feel then prepared for basic training, or I guess like how much of a shock to the system was it going from like working like minimum wage jobs, scraping by, trying to graduate high school, like just trying to get there, and then the reality of basic training? And along the same line, not to make like a super loaded question, having access to like the base and feeling like maybe you're walking around and already, I get quasi part of the military. Did that help at all, or what was the exposure?
It's not much in basic training. Like you're very much still sheltered in pods. I think it was actually a smoother transition than I thought, mainly because like so many people enter basic training. I'm sure you saw this in the Army, where like, or even before they get to boot camp, they're like, I'm going to be SF. And that's what they say. I just I never had that mentality. I was like, I have to go to basic training and I have to complete it. Then I have to go to selection and I have to complete it. And then I have to go to EOD school and I have to complete it. If I don't do those three things, then I fail.
What happens in the Air Force when you wash out? Because you mentioned like the Navy, then they just put you on like furlough or whatever.
You go to another job. You get a piece of paper and you can pick 7, and they'll tell you like, these are the ones we need people in most. And it's usually like military police and things like that, but you still get to put down whatever you want.
Got it.
And so, I had like a list, a backup in my head, but my recruiter, you have to fill that list out as part of your enlistment package before MEPS will process it. And I refused to fill it out for like 2 months until my recruiter had to just pull out a bunch of regulations and show me like, you have to do this. Cause I was like, I'm not doing anything else. Like,
I was going to say like, what was it? Or did you take the mentality of like, Apollo 13, like failure's not an option?
Yeah, that was it. I mean, I think I had a little more stake in it because EOD school's at Eglin, so in my hometown. And so not only was I like, I'm going to go do this thing, and my friends knew like, I'm going to try this, try to do this thing that's crazy to them, but also like, I'm going to have to see you guys in a year if I do make it, right? And so that was a little bit of a shock, but then also like I think just excited for the adventure. Like my first time on an airplane was going to basic training.
Oh, wow.
Like flying to Texas. And so just like I'm leaving home, I get to be away from home and like test myself where I'm just like everybody else for the first time. Like we're all in level playing ground. Like that energized me a lot. And then similarly, I was very lucky that in the Air Force, you're kind of grouped into like squadrons or battalions in basic training by your job. And so I went in with like 16 other people who were trying to be EOD.
Got it.
And a few of us just like melded together immediately. And like after the lights are out, we're like working out together in the dark and just like very, very, a lot of camaraderie.
Yeah. Do you, are you open to disclosing what the backups were, maybe the top 3, or is that now locked into secrecy for the rest of your life?
I'll say like, the backups, there was only one backup I seriously wanted. And the rest were just like, I'm going to fill this in because I have to. Which is going to be unsurprising to no one. It's load master, which is like in the Air Force, you are in charge of putting the equipment on the plane, like the logistics, moving the logistics, and you fly with the plane everywhere.
Got it.
And so it's known as like, you're gone 250 days a year. You get to see the world. You get flight pay. So you're treated
like literal see the world, not the fake military. You'll see the world.
No, like really, really good places and nice hotels and everything. So like the chances I wash out of EOD and I actually get that are also just probably 0.
Right. How do you, we don't have to go down that digression, but I'm guessing if it's so sought after, if there's like a washout or like some sort of test, or they just open that slot for just a very few amount of people
in the loadmaster slot.
The loadmaster,
yeah. It's like if a couple people wash out, and it's like, hey, we didn't hit our quota this year, so we'll have 1 or 2 slots. But again, it's like there's so many people applying to just get in, and people will go to the recruiter and say, I'll wait 2 years just to get a slot to go to this. So it's very few and far between.
Got it. Any other 2 and 3 slot, or was that kind of just like the...
No, I think the rest was just random stuff. There's like some like technical stuff and anything that seemed remotely interesting.
Got it. And how was basic training? I mean, I guess like perception versus reality.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounded like you got a good group of individuals. And I mean, full disclosure, right? Like, I would say I'm probably the most ignorant about Navy and Air Force basic training, probably also Space Force basic training, if that is even like actually a thing. I think people just switch over to Space Force. Yeah. I don't know if they're... Drop a comment down below if there's Space Force basic training. I'm not looking it up.
I think it's still Air Force.
But like, I don't know, like, and especially going EOD, there's multiple MOSs there. Like, again, I love the Air Force. I would have gone Air Force if I knew. But I'm assuming probably going the EOD route, you either have a chip on your shoulder or you're like, I'm better than them. Like, or like, I'm trying to get more out of this compared to maybe the person who's just going in there for tech.
Yeah. No, I think like our mentality, I say our, like me and the few guys I melded with really closely, our mentality was like, we're trying to be better. Yeah. Right. Like and you have to try and you have to be dedicated to it. There are definitely people, again, I think there were like 12 or 14 of us in our flight that were all trying to go EOD, and we had some people who were doing like, pararescue and things like that. And it was always that mentality of all the guys who made it were the ones that were like, I need to prove myself and I need to work hard to prove myself. The people who came in and they're like, I'm going to do this very confidently kind of had trouble. Yeah. Basic training itself was like actually not that bad. Again, I think like working all the minimum wage jobs I did, I'm somebody who draws parallels through their entire life. So like I worked at Hollister. Oh my God, don't get me started, right? Dark, smells like crap.
I did Abercrombie and Fitch once I got out for a summer.
Yeah, so you were better than me. Hollister's a tier below.
I don't think so. Worse than ranking. Yeah.
But like my boss was like, you just fold t-shirts. And I was actually at like an outdoor, like a very fancy outdoor mall. Yeah. And so when days it rained in Florida, nobody's coming in. Yeah. And so I would fold every t-shirt in the store and then they would be like, hey, fold them again. Nobody
asks you to like try on clothes because you look like their son and like trying to see if it fits.
That also happened. Okay, quite often.
Okay, see, so not just folding, because that's happened to me quite a bit.
But a lot of folding, right? And so it's like when it comes to, that's a lot of Air Force basic training. Like similar to Army is like keep all the stuff in your pack, yada yada. Yeah. A lot of Air Force is like everything needs to be folded in your locker this way, and so I drew that parallel. I worked in kitchens a lot, so like
line cook or
line cook, bus boy, wash dishes, like standing for 14 hours in the heat and working with no breaks, like something I did. So when it came to basic, it was more just like, okay, I need to have like some attention to detail in some of these more physical spaces. I've been working out a ton, so that was a challenge. Was always just to like do the best I could in the physical events, but I was never like anywhere near failing. Luckily. But yeah, and then honestly, it's like Air Force basic training, you can kind of hustle your way through it, which is wild. Like you can smart your way through it. Not that I'm smart, but the folding stuff, like I got really good at folding the duffel bag. Yeah. And no one else really got how to fold the duffel bag. So I would literally fold everyone's duffel bags at night. Really? And in return, I did not fold any, like I didn't fold my socks, I didn't fold my underwear. Somebody else did it, like kind of farmed it out. So yeah, it's an interesting system, but
that's awesome. How long is basic training?
Like 2 months.
8 weeks. Yeah. And then, so you do 8 weeks of that, graduate. Then you said selection, then EOD?
Yeah. So they bus you up. It's officially called prelim, but it's the same thing as like selection and other services. So they bus you up to Wichita Falls, Texas, which is like an hour south of Oklahoma City. And that is where they take all the EOD students. It is also where a lot of the like civil engineering, like construction jobs are for the Air Force and aircraft maintenance. And so they moved it up there a number of years ago because it's like so many people fail out. We can just keep you here and move you into maintaining planes or construction. And so you go up there and their job is literally to do kind of what you were saying is like, they test the absolute limits of your mental ability and the absolute limits of your physical ability. And the goal is like anybody who just watched the Hurt Locker and decided to sign up, like this isn't actually for you. To get like the people who are going to be successful in the next phase.
How many people go in and how many people leave?
That's a good question. Jaws. No, I don't know. I don't know the stats currently, but like, I think we're probably seeing maybe if like 20 or 30 would come, like 5 would leave.
Okay. But 20 and 30, that's a small class.
Yeah. No, it's always overlap, right? So I think there are probably 4 classes running at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So you'd say like 100 something people, and then like 20 people would leave to go to Florida.
Okay. And there's no like recycling there?
You get one, so throughout the whole EOD pipeline, you typically get like 1 recycle in prelim and 1 recycle in EOD school.
Got it.
Barring like you didn't do something crazy.
Yeah. What is, how long is that? And then anything in particular challenging there? Or is it similar, like show up, make sure everything's folded, or like attention to detail, right? Like,
yeah, no, it is, it's very different. So you show up, you still have like some rules on the like living front, like your area has to be clean, stuff like that. But mostly it is, we were actually the only school that was offsite as well. So we had to like show up formation at 5 a.m. in the dark and get on a bus, and we'd go offsite to the EOD prelim, because it also was like doubled as a range. So it was off base. And we'd go there, and it's like, okay, we're going to review 200 slide PowerPoint before lunch, and you're going to take lunch. When you come back, you're going to have a 10 question fill in the blank quiz. And the standard across all the EOD school is 85 is passing. If you get below 85, it's fail. So on this 10 question quiz, you can miss 1, fill in the blank, and you have to recall 200 slides of information. So, and it's a 4-week prelim to paint a picture. Like one of my bunkmates in basic training who went to EOD school with me, still a really good friend, Tyler, he put like, the question was asking, what do terrorists need as far as like to like actually carry out their plan? And one of those things is funding, and he put funds, and they recycled him because they were like, sorry, the word was funding, like that's tough, like you were so close.
Jeopardy, like they're going like, sorry, didn't have an S in it.
No, I mean they just failed him, and then he took it up to the cadre and was like, hey, like I put funds, like can we check that? And they're like, yeah, it's actually funding, like you just need to kind of be better. Which when we showed up, it actually ended up being kind of a blessing. He won't say that, but we showed up, and they're like, you're all going to take a physical test, and the top 20 people get in the class. The rest of you have to wait for the next class. And so we like went hard, and I finished like top 3 or 4 and was so excited. And then they were like, we're just messing with you guys. We're going alphabetically, and Trammel, I didn't get in the class. So he did, because his last name starts with E. And so him being recycled meant he fell back into my class. So
got it.
Good for me. Bad for him.
That's funny. I mean, it's, I guess, like attention to detail, but
it's a bit extreme, but you know,
feels a bit extreme, especially on that. I remember, that reminded me of when I was as a forward observer. Was it a JFO thing where it was something like really similar, where it was like kind of to the point, like not even attention to detail, but it's like we're just being pedantic now on like words. But I did save one of my privates when we were doing a check on learning. So a shift on known point is when you're calling in artillery, if there's a known point that FTC knows, you can shift from it. But it's only up to, don't quote me on this, 600 mils or 800 mils like of a distance. Otherwise the deviation becomes too big for it to be accurate. And during that check, the person running the test like made it whatever 1600 mils or whatever, and so his first round target was like too far away, and I had to be the like, actually that, because I was doing it with him like side by side, and I was like, actually that was greater than 800 mils, like you got to let him like try it again. And they're like, he should have called it like beforehand. You shouldn't even called it in. Well, like I'm like, well, as leaders we shouldn't be setting people up for failure, like we should be setting them up for success. And they're like, all right, we'll give him another go.
I mean, it was a really interesting time to defend the cadre. Like all of them were coming out of like very heavy OIF, OEF, right? So like literally, I remember the first day we sat down in the class, like you get bus there, you sit down, and it's just 2 instructors like pull up a PowerPoint of pictures from their deployments and just gore. And they're like, this is the stuff like you're gonna see. And I mean, at that point, like 30 of us, I think like 6 people were gone by lunch. Like they're like, I don't want to do this anymore.
I mean, that is the thing. I mean, like as much as we're joking about it, I mean, when you go through that, it's like, listen, there is no second chances. So you move, do you graduate, or is it just like, all right, now EOD?
Yeah, you graduate prelim, you get a little certificate. There's like a little ceremony, and it's like, cool. In the next 2 weeks, you're going to be on a flight down to Florida to EOD school. Congrats. And that's where every branch has their own selection. And then you all feed into one school. So then your class is Army, your class is Marines.
Really?
You get all mixed in and you go together. Yeah.
Even so, the EODs and the Army all get like every EOD across all the branches get trained on the same thing.
EOD school in Florida trains there might be new information out. They train every bomb tech just about in the world besides the British have their own school. And so Pakistani, like any of our partner nations that come, like get to go through our EOD school.
So then it's, I assume, very large. Yeah. If you're training not the entire world, but whatever, NATO and friendly allies.
No, it's enormous.
Do you work with them, or is it just like we've got the Americans here, the
internationals
Canadians
have their own class because of like classification stuff, just to keep it like cleaner. And then the Navy enters in their own class because they're special and they own the school. It's called Navy School EOD. But then if they ever get recycled, they fall. So I think I graduated with 2 Navy guys who had recycled in my class.
You make fun of them a lot?
I mean, they're wearing all blue usually at the time. And so it's easy.
I would call them outsiders. And how is that? So 8 weeks basic training.
4 weeks.
4 weeks of the prelim.
No.
Now you're an EOD. I'm going to guess 8 months.
Yeah, just about. Woo. So I think like seven and change is like the quickest you can do it. No recycles, blew through it.
How long was your contract?
I signed a 6-year contract because at the time they were offering like a $15,000 signing bonus if you made it through on a 6-year. If you did a 4-year, you didn't get the bonus. Being in business school now, I realized that I was like, dang, I actually kind of messed up.
Horrible IRA.
Could have made more money if I did the 4-year and then re-enlisted, because re-enlistment bonuses are like $100,000.
Yeah.
But, live you learn.
Amortize the $15K after tax across the 2 years. Like, oh, this is not making sense. Yeah, seriously. I mean, I think Navy subs are now making like $70K. I think both enlistment and re-enlistment bonuses. When I talk to some of the JTACs, I think the cap on a bonus is $300,000, and it was either pilots or JTACs or FAC-A. I forget which one, and it was like 220, 230 or something like that. I'm like,
insane.
Listen, I wouldn't go back in, but if I was in and you're dangling 200,000, I'm like, 20 years doesn't sound that bad. As I see you going to the entree, do we go heated or unheated?
I'm always unheated.
Unheated, really?
Yeah, always unheated.
You've got nothing to prove, man.
I think it's just the lower income routes. I've lived without hot water before, so when I joined, I was like, this is just easier. Again, I just want to be able to open it and eat it. And honestly, I mean, have you ever had one that's like, this is way better heated? Maybe 1 or 2.
They're better heated. I always do like an out of 10 scale. I say it adds like a point and a half on that scale.
And so that's the other thing. If there are a couple that I think are like you kind of have to heat to be good, but it's also if I did choose to heat the ravioli, that's like a little treat myself moment, right? Like that's how the MRE, I have to eat it every day. Yeah, that's cool. They're not that bad, but then it's like I had a particularly good day or a particularly rough day. It's like, let's eat it. Let's get a little fancy. Yeah. So that's my self carrot that I dangle.
There we go. And so talk to me about EOD school. Did you feel like that was the hardest of them all?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely the hardest. It leaves, I think as you progress, it leaves more and more room for error. They watch over you less, right? You can kind of do your own thing. As you know, like any military institution in the US, there's like tons of bars and shenanigans that can be had like right off base. So obviously you have
they know. Those business owners know.
Yeah, you have a number of attrition from people that just like can't keep it together for 8 months is kind of a long tech school. So people who can't keep it together that long or make a mistake just in general. But again, I got super lucky. So Tyler, the guy I was mentioning, we get placed as roommates in Florida. We graduate prelim together, get placed as roommates. And I think both like very different backgrounds, but insanely in sync on like, this is the thing we're going to do at any cost. So it was like, we go like you would wake up at 4 a.m. to get on the bus to go to study hall. Study hall is like 4:30 to 6:30.
Yeah.
Not mandatory, but if you fail a test, the first thing they do is pull up your study hall log. And if you like attend less than 70%, they're like, I don't think you're going to, they're not taking this seriously. So we're not going to recycle you. So we never miss a study hall. Wake up at 4, go there, do study hall, get breakfast. Then you're just in class all day until about 4 p.m. Then all the branches split and go their own ways. And so they all have detachments. We go to the Air Force detachment, and then 4 to 6:30, it's just, you get absolutely slammed in a workout.
Yeah.
And then at 6:30, we'd get out, go to the dining facility, 6:30 to 7, eat, 7 in bed watching TV, like asleep by 7:30. And so we were just on that schedule of like, this is what you got to do to make it, and get up at 4 the next day and crush it. So
did it ever feel like a routine, or was it just like, all right, new day, I just got to like make it past this day?
I think it started to fall into a routine. It's blocked, like roughly every month is a different classification of ordnance. And so you enter and say you'll do like tools, and then ground, which is landmines, grenades. Then you go to air, and that's all like missiles and dispensers. Then you go to IEDs, then you go to WMDs, then you go to nukes. And so it's kind of like seen as in chunks, like, okay, I got to make it through. And they're very clear about the statistics of like, this is the one and most people fail in, this is the one least people fail in. So it's just kind of like make it through this phase and then recalibrate.
I mean, it's the challenge. My assumption is the challenge of like just knowledge retention. Like, how do I remember just everything that's thrown at me in the shortest amount of time? Yeah.
And so I'm a very hands-on learner. And so luckily, like, the test is you get paired with a random instructor. And so you learn for roughly a month, and then you go through like today is test day, and you're going to have like 6 hours to do the test. And the test is the instructor goes out to a Connex. If you're in ground, he picks a landmine of his choice, and he goes and buries it in the woods. And then they come up to you and they're like, hey, it's time for your test. These are the rough coordinates. And it's like, okay, like what tool, like, did you see anything? Like, was it in the ground? Was it sticking out of the ground? And you just start like it's a real call.
Yeah.
You get the tools you think you need. You go out in the woods. If you forget something, you run back, because it is like very strictly timed.
Yeah.
You have like a classified laptop where you're trying to look up schematics and figure out what
Googling.
it is.
Wikipedia.
And again, 85% pass. Right? Like you have to have an 85, and there are certain things. It's very famous for having called like a 16-point hit. They have a ton of stuff that if you do it at 16 points off, auto fail.
Yeah.
So you just kind of memorize those. And then me and the guys I was close with, our strategy was that Connex where they pull the ordnance from is open during study hall. So every day we would get there early, every day we would leave late. And our plan was like, by the time we get to test day, I want to at least have spent like 30 minutes with every mine and grenade in this box, because then like at least I have some frame of reference. And so we just took it super serious.
Yeah. I mean, I'm fascinated because I'm assuming they're not real explosives in an unlocked Connex.
Correct.
And if they are, we'll bleep it, and so that nobody actually I don't know, like, how does that work? So, I mean, I'm guessing it's just everything but, right? And then so the wires are there, or the circuit's there, or the pins are there, and then you're just...
No explosives.
Yeah, and then no explosives. At any point, are you actually working with real explosives in EOD school at like the very end? Or like, is there any point, is there any point where they're like, listen, this is now actually real? Or are they like, we never actually want to put you in that level of risk unless it's real life?
Yeah, so you use explosives at prelim. You use C4, we use Simtex, and then we shot some of our like disarming tools. And then when you get to Eglin, your first month is demolition.
Okay.
And so that first month, quarter is being tested on like, can you properly handle these things? Do you know how to carry them? Are you not dropping them? And you actually go out in the range and you blow up like 200, 500, 1,000-pound bombs like what they have out there. And so that's like your introduction. And then you go work on the inert stuff.
Cool.
It was
like, welcome to the EOD. And they're like, we're going to blow up a lot of stuff.
They'll have cars out there. Like you show up and they're like, we're going to blow this car up today. And this is how you do it. And like that, they like teach you in real time. Like you don't, it's not like, it's kind of weird. You don't spend 2 weeks with like fake explosives. They're just like, here it is, take it serious. These are the rules. And then you do it.
That's fascinating. Is there any particular... I don't know. I'm assuming you can say this, but tell me if you can't. Like, is there any particular type that's like harder than the other? Like, is munition, like aircraft munition, harder than like, say, like an IED, like a pressure cooker versus a grenade versus whatever? Like, because I assume the more improvised stuff, the harder it is, because you're like, I have no idea like what this guy did to create this. versus like, oh, it's unexploded AGM-114 and I have their entire, you know, schematics that I can like look at.
Yeah, I mean, those are the two hardest, right? If I say a grenade's the easiest, it's like literally 2 pieces and some fuse. And so you know it. And then as you move up the chain of like, okay, Raytheon built this, like a literal rocket scientist built this, and I'm a 19-year-old and I have to unbuild this.
You're calling them up like, what are you doing?
Yeah, so that's like hard. And then, of course, like king is like IEDs. At that point, it is much less like schematics and how does this work, but more like you have to start thinking like, why is this here? Who was it intended to hurt? And all of that drives a bunch of decision trees that get to like, this is probably how it's initiated. So this is how I need to take it apart without initiating it.
I'm guessing a lot of what you're working through, I mean, is like 1, how to actually do it, but then 2, the way you need to think about it. I'm assuming that like everything is slightly different than the other. I may have just quoted Hurt Locker on accident, where I think they do like every ID you step in is different than the other. But I'm guessing that's a lot of it.
Yeah, a ton of it. Like one of the mottos that everybody learns at school is like complacency kills.
Yeah.
It's like, doesn't matter if you saw the same jug yesterday, like what's inside can be completely different. And so, and like, I mean, it's a human game of warfare, right? You're constantly learning and adapting, and that's no different in the Middle East. And so, it's a lot of just critical thinking and how do you adapt.
Yeah. How much are you relying on like the experiences of the cadre or the people there versus like pure book knowledge?
Probably like 80% book knowledge, 20% cadre. It's their job to really like reinforce the book knowledge with personal stories or anecdotes, right? Yeah. And then some stuff. And then once you graduate and get in the real world, it's like honestly 80% probably the people around you. Yeah. Just like, these are all the things I've seen and like what to watch out for and stuff like that. So
not enjoying school, coming into a very now book intensive situation. Are you enjoying the learning, or is it just a thing that you need to, like, is it out of necessity or out of now love of learning that you're being successful?
I think it was like, I don't know at what point it switched, but I was like, this is a hard thing. And I just think it's almost like a coming of age story of, I think, a lot of people that enlist in the military. It's like, this is a chance to fundamentally shift my life. And so there's before you leave for boot camp, and then when you leave for boot camp, it's like, who do I want to be? I can be anybody I want to be. And I think that switch for me was like, I'm going to be somebody who does hard things, not shy away from that. And so part of it was that. And then part of it was a little luck in that because everything's classified, there's no homework in EOD school. You can't take anything home. And so I loved that. I was like, cool, I'm here. I can dedicate 100% of myself to it, because also no cell phones at EOD school. So like, it's just you and the guys and girls around you, your classmates, and what you're learning. And then when you go home, it's like it's like severance.
So the show has it right. You're like, actually, this is how we should be doing it. That's not dystopian at all. It's actually, I'm actually a fan of it. By the way, I don't know if you tried this. This trail mix with the beef jerky is legitimately also very good.
Trail mix.
Yeah, one of our guests loved it. It's the cranberries and the beef is. I don't know. I found it pretty good too.
Wow.
Yeah, that's like a straight up like. You could get that at the gas station, like no problem whatsoever.
I would pay money for that. That's weird.
We do charge actually for this show. This was not free. We need to recoup some of the money.
All right.
Go to our sponsor page and obviously you graduate. Probably no spoiler there.
Yep. Got recycled once.
You did?
Worst day of my life.
Out of what? What cost you to recycle?
I did not get paid for a month.
Okay. Like a furlough or something like that?
No, just finance, military finance things. And so I asked one of the cadre, I was like, hey, I haven't gotten a paycheck. Not a huge deal. I'm in the dorms. I'm at the dining facility, but like still would like money. And he was like, yeah, go to finance. Here's the office, like after school. And so after school one day, went to finance office, got everything fixed. They were like, cool. I come home and like 6 p.m. I realize that guy never gave me my ID back.
No.
Like my CAC is at the finance office. I'm calling, obviously, finance not there. I didn't have had I been smarter and known how the military worked at that point, you just don't know in tech school or AIT, like I could call in a favor, right? Like ask the cadre to call somebody he knows at finance and get my CAC back. But that didn't happen. Study hall starts at 4 a.m. I went to school. You don't need ID, thankfully, to do study hall. But then that was my first day of nukes. Okay. And you cannot get in to like it's
They're just not letting anybody into the new crew?
The building is a vault. Like literally they have to open a vault door to the front door to the building.
Yeah.
And yeah, I showed up and didn't have my ID and I just got reamed for it.
Yeah.
And it was a whole like no attention to detail.
Yeah.
Not going to graduate you. It was like 3 weeks. It's the last thing. Yeah. Like 3.5 weeks before graduation. And I was with my team, with like my best friend the whole time, and then had to roll into a new class.
From the very beginning?
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, it hurt. I'm still upset about it a little bit.
Yeah. How much, feel free to call out that security guard. We'll put his Instagram handle here and we'll just really, that's frustrating. Do you ever like meet the person who kept your ID card at the finance office again? And you're like, you don't even know how much you screwed me.
No, it's not that bad. Like I went there obviously and got it, and I was like, like honest mistake on me, honest mistake on you. That's okay. I was more upset about the cadre who reamed me. Like, he was like,
you're like, dude.
Yeah, I was like, you're just a normal person. I made one mistake. It's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
He had a little complex, but
was it a Navy cadre?
No, it was an Air Force guy actually who is still in.
Really?
Yeah.
Call him. I'm kidding.
Turns out one of the least liked people in the career field once I graduated and found out. I was like, oh yeah, that checks out.
Makes sense. Glad that they put him in charge of getting the youth or the new generation of EOD into the place. Like they're like, where do we put this like really toxic person? Oh, in charge of all the new people to really corrupt their mind? That.
That's like, I mean, that's one of my biggest complaints. I love the military.
Yeah.
One of my biggest complaints is like, if somebody's not performing well operationally, they try to put you in, put them in the schoolhouse so they can't affect operations, or put them somewhere. It's like, let's just get rid of them.
And that's the unfortunate thing, right? It's like, because I saw that in the Army too. It's like, the reality is, it's like, it takes one bad leader to start like corrupting everything else. And like the military is in such a way that like you don't really just get like fired.
Yeah.
They just are like, well, we can't really like, kick you out unless you like really mess up. So then we're like, where do we put you? And there's a lot of great recruiters out there, but sometimes it's recruiting. And then there's a lot of great AIT instructors out there. Sometimes it's or job training AIT for Army. I honestly, I think basic training in AIT are like, or job training would be like put them anywhere else. Like put them anywhere else where they're, because like I think they're just like, everyone's so impressionable, and if that's what they think it means to be a good leader, it just I don't know, you just corrupt, and it infiltrates everything else.
Compounding effects from there.
You make it the second time.
Yeah, thankfully 3.5 weeks later,
never lost your ID.
Didn't lose my ID again. Didn't lose my ID again for the rest of my career.
That's
so
good.
I guess lesson learned.
I still I habitually check my driver's license, even though I could like leave without my driver's. I'm now old enough that most people don't car me even for at the bars. But I'm like, phone, wallet, keys. I always do like, I check my pants and then I look, I'm like, okay, I've got my ID. I got my 2 credit cards. I got this, like, okay, I can leave the house.
Definitely a habit.
That's probably some disability that I could claim on that. Like, I don't know. I haven't tried, but maybe. We could even go down that. I mean, we don't have to, but maybe we'll talk about it later. But what's the rest of your career? So 8 months, 9. You almost get a full year in the service, and now you have 5 years when you get to
5 years left.
Squadron. What do you say when you get?
Just your unit. We really just talk about like a shop, like the EOD shop is like, get to a squadron. You find out about 2 months. The attrition rate, like IEDs, is like the 6th division or so.
Okay.
That's like the last like very, very hard and challenging one.
Yep.
And then WMDs and nukes are actually like just very book smart intensive stuff. So it's like we already know that you can do that, obviously. So the attrition rate drops off quite big. And so actually right after IEDs is when you usually get your assignment. So like 2 months before graduation, like where you're going. And it's announced by class. And so like my class that I had been with since the beginning of like 12 of us, we just like literally Cadre comes out and is like, hey, this class, line up because you're about to get your assignments. You line up, and then she just goes down the line and tells us what we got. And I'll never forget, because you track this stuff, like every class that leaves, you're like, where are they going? Like that, what are the chances that we get that again, right? If somebody goes to Italy, it's like, I'm not going to get Italy next class. So probably that was like one seat. And at the time it was like all the nuclear bases were plussing up.
Yeah.
And so we just saw like two classes in a row just get like middle of Missouri, like middle of New Mexico, like all these places. And we were like, oh, like we're either going to get stuck with this or it's going to get full. And yeah, like half of my class got, I'll say for like Army terms, like El Paso.
Okay.
Got like, Albuquerque, Montana, but really middle of the state, kind of nowhere. And then we got like one Germany, one of our buddies, and we were like, oh, that's so awesome. Yeah. And then I got England.
Nice.
And Tyler got England as well, which was like just
luck of the draw.
Insane. Yeah. Insane.
And you met Tyler in basic training.
Yeah.
Okay. Man, that's a journey. Do you guys have matching tattoos? Please say yes.
We don't. We were really close.
I was going to say that sounds
really
like
close.
I'm not into matching tattoos. Don't tell my fiance this. I wouldn't get even once we get married, a matching tattoo there. But like meeting basic training and then the luck of getting stationed together too. That I feel like if I can convince you to do it, you already got it. You know, just a small one.
Little thing.
Yeah.
So that was great. It was funny because through prelim and EOD school, we're from very different backgrounds. He's from Utah, like other side of the US.
Yeah.
We would go and like buy the same clothes. We're like, we have the same style, same taste. So let's buy the same clothes. Like in a year, we're not going to see each other again.
Yeah.
Get orders to England. We're like, we have the same wardrobe.
we kind of messed up
here. Yeah. Really messed up. But in hindsight, like we should have doubled the size of our the clothes we bought and then shared. But
I'm guessing if you flew for the first time to basic training, this is also now your first time leaving the country.
Yes. Moving to England.
Were you nervous?
I don't think so. It made it a lot easier. That was an English speaking country.
Yeah.
And then I think England is pretty romanticized in like US media. So I was just more excited than anything. Obviously it was new and I wanted it I think it was easier for me than it was other people. Like I didn't have family to really miss, right?
Yeah.
And so I was just like, really up for the adventure.
And I guess like hearing myself ask that question, it's like, oh, so after learning how to disarm bombs and WMDs and all that, like, are you nervous about flying to England, our biggest ally? Are you, to my knowledge, there's not a dedicated U.S. Air Force base. Are you jointly based, or is there one in England?
So the Royal Air Force has essentially like leased the U.S. Air Force, like probably 6 or 7 bases.
Got it.
And so they're primarily ours. I think there's a couple like exchange officers, like British officers there with us, but primarily U.S. based.
A full U.S. base. Okay.
Yeah, F-15s it's the home of the F-15 there, and they're like, they can take off and refuel and drop bombs in the Middle East and then like be back home. So we would like monthly commanders calls. The commanders like, here's how many bombs, like targets we hit this month because of all of your work, which is like pretty, for me, obviously I'm doing impactful work, but for like the maintainers and the people that usually don't get a lot of love, like I think that's really cool to see.
Yeah. How long are you there for? Are you living on base and, what is that transition like now being like in the job?
The Air Force, it's 2-year overseas rotations are 2 years. Unless you were married, then it's like 3 or 4. So I did 2 years in the dorms. That's, just an experience for any formative experience for any enlisted military member.
Get to drink at 18. I don't know if you drink at 18. I got stationed in Italy and I was like 18 drinking age. All right, we're good.
So that was sweet. At the time I'm like 19, 20. So I was like close, but got to drink, which was awesome. And then Tyler and I are roommates, figured that out.
So you even got in the same dorm. Like, how many people are there? So it's you two.
Yeah.
Not to be confused with Bono and the British thing, but so you two came from that. Was it only the two of you from the EOD class, and then how many people are you joining there?
Joining about 18 people. Okay. So the unit I think had like 22 head count.
EOD.
Yeah.
Wow. I know nothing, but it feels like a lot of EOD in one spot. I don't know. I just assumed it'd be like 5. like in different areas of the world.
No, I think like in the Air Force, we have like 50 EOD units across the world, and the standard is like 18-ish. Okay. And then we have like Nellis, because of Nevada, or Salt Lake City, are going to be like 60, like 40 or 60 man shops. So like pretty standard. It was great. We had like another guy come in maybe like 6 months later from school. So we kind of got to like push the new guy stuff off, off on him. We got hazed. You might need to bleep that. We got hazed. That was still a thing then.
Allegedly.
Hazed.
Allegedly you got hazed.
We got allegedly hazed for 6 months. The new guy shows up, and then actually we allegedly got hazed for about a month, and then we flipped it on a higher ranking person. We realized like we actually can deflect here, and it worked perfectly.
Right.
So that was great. And then at the time, our unit had the highest, had the most women in EOD in it. So 3 women in that 20-person unit, which was also just really cool.
What year was this?
This was 2014.
Okay. Wow. Okay. And 2 years there, what are you doing? What's your day job, right? So I know as like a forward observer, it's a lot of allegedly getting hazed, allegedly. And then like just a lot of like, especially being in Italy, well, like Caserma, Italy is like, you could walk from one end to the other in like 10 minutes. You're not doing artillery practice on base. The Italians would be very upset about that. So then it's like, I guess we'll just read, our field manual front to back, or like put on a class or go to the simulator. Like, what are you, is it a lot of that? Or are you, because they're doing all those sorties out of the bays, helping, I don't know, because I guess you're not disarming, but
no, don't load either. That's like another AFSC or another like MOS, like loads the bomb. So I think at standard across all EOD shops is you just try to maximize your training hours, which like happen in days. So it's like most shops train, we'll say like Tuesdays and Thursdays. Then Monday, Wednesday, Friday is what's called like section work. We don't have our own support, which sucks, but it also has pros. I think you learn like a lot of other skills. And so I fell into like logistics. And so like I'm ordering rubber gloves if we need more rubber gloves. And I'm like counting rubber gloves if we don't know how many we have, right? And that's my like Monday, Wednesday, Friday job, is to make sure we have all of our tools and our inventory. Or if we get a new tool, like I'm going to figure out how to use it and then try to teach everybody. And then Tuesdays and Thursdays is just all day, either like in the classroom reviewing certain types of ordnance or bombs, or hearing stories from people and like seeing pictures of things they've done, or going out and just like running practice scenarios like this. We would call the post office and say, hey, can we use this part of the post office for 6 hours today? And we'd go put a backpack there and like run a scenario, which some people appreciated, some people didn't.
It's like, I really need to mail this out. Sorry, man. Listen, my hands are tidy. Just go faster. Are you cross-training at all with the British, or all US?
Yeah, so we actually established a program while I was there that was like, I think we get a couple seats in their bomb school every year, which is really cool. It was unique. So we'd invite them out a few times a year, and we'd go to them a few times a year. But now it's much more like we can attend their training officially, and they can attend ours, which is great. They're known as like the godfathers of the career field. Like they really started with the IRA and stuff. And so, it was like a really good learning opportunity, I think.
Well, it's interesting because, I mean, you joined to like serve and like to protect, right? And I guess like EOD is one of those like few jobs where literally you don't need to, right? Like, I mean, you're equally serving and protecting by potentially disarming something at a post office or going and sweeping places where like legitimately somebody might be in danger. So like, it's got to be one of the few jobs outside of like, I mean, yes, everyone who serves, whether garrison or deployed, is doing that to some extent. And you could say, people who are doing intel or whatever, right? They're doing it, but like actively kind of being in danger or whatever, like, I mean, there could have been something at 30 Rock, or there could have been something, you know, in these different areas. Which I don't know. I mean, I guess it's just like a unique MOS or job.
I agree. Hindsight, like I think I did it. I think it's just, I mean, you talk to anybody, I think, and it's like, I didn't do it while being shot at. There's probably always a next thing, right?
Yeah.
I didn't do it while jumping out of a plane.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it wasn't in space while getting shot at on the moon. Yeah. I mean, we've had some incredible guys, and like it's a common theme. Like, I mean, everything from literally episode 1, Medal of Honor recipient, to Navy SEALs, to EOD, to whatever, and even like every single one of them are like, it wasn't as bad as World War II, or wasn't this, or it wasn't that. I'm like,
nothing special.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know. I mean, like, I guess it's probably good. It's probably like, it's better mentality than like, I'm a hero, you're welcome.
Yeah.
You know, like I guess like between those two extremes, I'd rather take the like humble, like, you know, I just did my job, or it is what it is, than the like, fair. Look at me, I'm the hero. But I don't know. There's probably like some level of self-love or self-improvement. I don't know.
Yeah. It's also just like, it's very big in EOD culture. Like I've met very few EOD techs that act that way, which is like pretty wild, given there's like 1,000 in the Air Force. Very few. A lot of them are always like, how do I get to our like tier 1 unit? Yeah. Do I consider cross training to go be like a Green Beret or a SEAL or something? A lot of them are always like, I'm not really doing it enough, which is pretty wild, like given this statement. But
at any point, are you like, maybe I should do 20 years of this? Or did you, because you mentioned, you know, initially one of the things was like, I need to be able to pay for college. So doing that 6 years, you're like, I know at the end, or at any point are you hemming and hawing that decision?
Yeah. So the first 4 years out in England, so it's like, I'm at 5 years, right? The Air Force hooks it up, and it's obviously weird. Like we have community college of the Air Force, right? Where you can get associates. EOD school satisfies because it's like a lot of that associate's degree. And so I come out, I get to England. I do like a night class on public speaking, and I'm sure you're familiar with like CLEPs, like you can test out of college. I do like 6 CLEPs, pass 5, and then I'm like, I have an associate's degree. And then I spend like a year called like upgrade training, like really focusing on your job. And while I'm doing those things, and then as soon as I finished the upgrade training, I was like, cool, like 1 or 2 classes at night, AMU, of course, and just like figure out what I can do. The whole time I'm kind of centered on like 3 things. One is like, I get this bonus and I'm making more money than I've ever had, and I don't really have a use for it. So I'm thinking, how do I start investing? Like, what's that like? Thankfully, I had a phenomenal mentor, like E6. I don't know if this happens in AIT and basic. They like drill it in you. They're like, TSP this, like GI Bill this, like you have to do it, yada, yada. Yeah. I get to the first unit, I get to England, and my boss is like, I'm going to give you guys a finance briefing today. And I'm like, dude, I've had like 3 or 4. Like, and he's like, no, you're going to come sit down for an hour. I'm going to teach you. Again, like just made E6, pulls his actual TSP up. There's like $600,000 in it.
Wow.
And he's been in like 7 years, 8 years. And then that's when it like clicked for me. I was like, oh, this is like possible. This isn't just like something people say, like do it. And like he lays everything out, like all the rules that you see on Reddit all the time, people not knowing that you can switch out of the G fund or what have you. Yeah, he like lays all that out for me, like why you want to do it. And that really shifted my mentality of like, okay, like I can still make money here, even though it's the Air Force and you're enlisted, and that's not like a commonly known thing. And then school, and then be like just being really good at work, right? So I start that school stuff at night through AMU, and then focused on work. And those like 4 years kind of fly by. You're like TDY all the time. When I am home, I'm like, tickets to Rome are $80. Like I'm just traveling all the time. Just like just gone, just having fun, having an amazing time, and like no real plan. I was just like, I'm working towards these 3 things and they'll happen. Finish up my 4 years. Tyler, like if you volunteer for a short tour, so like a 1-year unaccompanied thing. So usually like Korea or Turkey, you volunteer for that. You go do a year and you get preference on your next base. Tyler is like, I want to be in Las Vegas, so I'm going to go to Korea. He does that. And like when he signs his deal for like, I'm going to Korea, like has a guaranteed spot at the Las Vegas shop after. I had met someone who's now my wife. Nice. And I was like, I don't want to go to Korea for a year. And so we kind of play roulette. As you are probably very familiar with, I get an assignment to middle of nowhere, Missouri.
Yeah.
And then like, this is like 3 months before I move. 2 weeks later, I get an email that it's canceled.
Yeah.
I'm like waiting 2 weeks. And then I get like an email that I might go to Louisiana. And then I'm like 2 weeks later, it's like, no, you're not going to Louisiana. I got very lucky at a TDY. I'd like connected with a chief who was like pretty high up at this point. Yeah. And so I called him and was like, texted him. I was like, hey, can I have a few minutes of your time? Called him and was like, I've never dealt with this. This is my first like real Air Force PCS thing. Yeah. I don't care where I go. I just want to know where it is.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
I literally don't care.
Just give me something.
Yeah. And he's like, okay, like just give me like a day. I'll call you tomorrow. Yeah. And then that night I got an email from the person who controls everything and was like, hey, where do you want to go? And I gave him, you know, like an awesome list. Like I want to go to like Miami or like the
Hawaii,
top bases.
Miami.
Yeah. And he's like, yeah, so we don't have any of those, but we have Charleston, South Carolina. And I was like, oh, cool. Like never been, but heard great things. Yeah. And so, took that offer and got really lucky. So moved down to Charleston. Same EOD type daily layout, but the focus is you have C-17s, which nothing happens on ever, but the primary focus is Civil War ordnance. So somebody digs up a cannonball every like 3 days. Yeah. And so you're just diffusing those, and then also still doing the VIP stuff, like traveling.
You met your girlfriend in London, or sorry, the UK or England?
I go home for a TDY. I go to Florida for a TDY. Go to my hometown, bump into her. She's about to go to grad school in England.
What is your luck, my guy? Like, what is this happenstance?
Yeah. So I was like, let me know when you come out. So she moved out for grad school, and then we just spent
in Cambridge. Was she out in Cambridge? Or?
She was in Nottingham, so like 2 hours north.
Okay. Wow. Well, I guess if she's coming from the U.S., she probably doesn't have a strong affinity to the Nottingham soccer team. Did you get into soccer while there?
Yeah. I watched a good bit.
What's your team?
I don't really, I was like a huge Man U fan growing up, which as like the American moving to England had like, it's like, okay, the British guy moves to the US and you love the Yankees. We get it. But one of my really good friends in high school was from Manchester. Okay. And so I have a little bit of an excuse.
Some excuse, exactly. Like, no, I swear.
Yeah. And it was really funny. He had moved back after he went to college in the US and then moved back and works in like works around executives a lot. And so has a lot of connections and like got us really good seats at a Man U game. Nice. We went with him.
Put their stats up this year. They're doing horribly. They're number 5 on the rank.
Not just this year, unfortunately.
I'm West Ham. It used to be Man U because when I was deployed, this was 2012. I think that's when FIFA released the newest title with Manchester on there, and it was. Was it Wayne Rooney on the thing? But like that's what I got into, and then I went to London for my bachelor party, and we went to a West Ham match. Yeah. And you sign a piece of paper. I mean, it's digitally, but you sign a piece of paper that's like, this is a home team game. I like attest that I will be, a home team supporter. Blah blah blah. And so I'm like, well, I mean, I signed a legal document saying, I'm like, I can't.
Be my team.
Hey, it's like, legally speaking, this has to be my team now. I'm like, I don't want to break British law. They've been doing okay. They just fired their coach, but whatever. Neither here nor there.
Yep.
But then you go to
move to Charleston,
but only 1 year left in your contract.
Only 1 year left. At this point, so I guess skipping a little interesting part of the story. While I was in England, I did that trip to New York, the SNL thing. I'm a huge photographer. It's like my biggest hobby. So while I'm in New York City for the first time, I'm like, I'm going to take pictures of the city. That's awesome. Reach out to like a photographer I follow, and he's like, I'll show you around for free, like all the best spots in New York. We become friends through happenstance. Like months later, I'm back in England working. His dad met this guy who's founding a nonprofit who needs a photographer. And the guy's based in Switzerland. And he's like, I would take this job, but you're so much closer. So why don't you fly out there? He said he'd fly you out to Switzerland to meet him ahead of the nonprofit's launch. So I went and met this guy. I know nothing about nothing at this point. I just know I'm in this huge house on Lake Geneva, and I'm like, this is pretty cool. Turns out their plan is to it's 8 people. They want to cycle. It's called the Race Across America. It's from San Diego to Annapolis as fast as you can. Their plan is to do this to launch their nonprofit to raise money for a school in Africa. And I was like, that sounds really cool. And so you're going to fly me out and I get to ride along with you and take photos and help you like post on social media. And you're going to pay for everything. And they're like, yeah. I was like, okay. So I took 14 days of leave.
Wow.
Went and did that. It was a wild adventure where like more things happened than you can imagine. Completed the race in like just over 7 days. Rookie team of the year, raised about $500,000, the most money raised, and for a girls' school in Kenya. But through that, we just like bonded a lot. And then it turns out like the guy who founded it was like ex-partner at Citadel. Like I start learning what these things are and what these things mean, like what private equity is, and somebody runs a family office. And so I learned all about this, and I'm like, that sounds really cool. And I asked one, I was like, what do you think I should do with my life? And this is a really good piece of advice I actually got this week was, if you're looking for, you know, a mentor, like never, when you ask them for help, like listen to the people who ask the most questions. Like no good mentor is just going to be like, well, do this right away. Like the best mentors are going to ask you questions. And so when I asked them, like, what do you think I should do with my life? 3 or 4 of them were all like, well, what do you want to do? Like I think you can do anything. Just like, tell me what your skills are, your hopes are. And so that was like, I don't know, kind of like a matrix moment for me. I was like, oh, like these people who are extremely successful and wealthy, like believe in me. Maybe I should start not just thinking like I need to save money and get a degree, but like what's after that? And so that was kind of like a light bulb moment for me. And then right before we left England to move to Charleston, same thing. He gifted me, like he emailed me tickets to fly out to France to his house for like Christmas out of nowhere. And when I was visiting him, I'll never forget, we're like walking in to his chalet and I'm telling him my plan. I'm like, yeah, so what I'm going to do, I'm not done with my degree yet. I have 2 years left of my degree. I have like at this point, I think like 50 grand in my TSP. And so I'm like, that's like, okay, but that's not enough to like just get out of the military without a degree.
600,000.
And so I'm at 6 years and I'm like, I'm going to re-enlist. I'm going to re-enlist 4 years with the absolute goal to like get the degree, save as much money and invest as much money as possible, and like have a like very fixed plan of exactly what I want to do. And I remember he's like, well, like, you know, what are you going to make? And I'm like, I don't know, I'll make like 50 grand a year in enlisted pay. But then they give me a re-enlistment bonus. And he's like, oh, how much is that? And I was like, 80 grand. And he's like, 80 grand a year for 4 years? That's actually pretty good. And I was like, no, it's 80 grand for 4 years. And he just laughed in my face. And he was like, you just need to get out. Like, and again, that was another one of those light bulb moments of like, you can make that much money. Like you just don't know. And so, he really pushed me to think like bigger and differently. So I get to Charleston, just that, like I'm going to re-enlist 4 years and I'm going to try to like speed run this degree, figure out what I want to do and invest as much money as possible. So I'm in Charleston for about 2 years and I start getting like really into what now is huge. At the time, it was pretty much non-existent, like the innovation scene. I started right before I left England. I started a 3D printing program.
Nice.
So we were spending about $100,000 on bombs and landmines every year and then blowing them up. And so we started 3D printing them. So it's like, then we
what 3D printers did you, or was it like an Ender or like some like high caliber?
It was like Ultimaker at first. Like it was still very, very novel, like nowhere near, again, this just happened so fast. But so then I got to Charleston, ended up in a random meeting with like the wing commander and a bunch of people. And that he was like, I've heard this innovation thing is coming to the military. I want an office here that does that. And he like pointed at a C-17 pilot and was like, you're going to lead it. And I just, again, I think being ignorant, just raised my hand in the middle of this meeting with the wing commander. And he's like, yeah, what's up? And I was like, I started a 3D printing program at my last base. Like, I'd love to be involved. And he's like, cool. Like pointed at the pilot and was like, rope him in. And so I was doing like moonlighting. I was doing EOD work during the day and like literally helping build this office, like laying flooring, like what gear do we want? What printers do we want? Doing research. I started to get into tech basically, and started to see the world through that lens. And that was like, okay, I think there's something here. There's something I can do. Still getting my degree at AMU at the time, but starting to realize that like, that's not the move. So went to like a Citadel admit day, which is there in Charleston, not feasible with my schedule. Like they're a very in-person school and like a lot of stuff during the day. Went to like Community College of Charleston and did some classes, but starting to like feel out what's out there. Then I yeah, I get in a little bit of trouble at work for the innovation stuff. My command, like my flight chief, the EOD guy, doesn't like that I'm not wholly focusing on EOD stuff. There's no
like you're splitting your time too much, or
but there is no impact. Yeah. There's like I'm not leaving the office. Like I'm not doing anything like that. Just didn't like it. Around that time, I get promoted in there. I switched my degree in AMU from, I think I was just doing like a business degree to math. And I'm like, okay, two things are going to happen here. I'm either going to commission and go fly planes. And I want a STEM degree because like the pinnacle is like astronautic program and you need a STEM degree.
Yeah.
And plan B is like, I'm going to get out and go do tech stuff.
Yep.
And this is what I want to do. And so along this time, there like an email comes out. And I think like I was actually accidentally on the email list. And it's like, there's a new tech accelerator being built at the Pentagon. And we're looking for 12 people. It doesn't matter what rank or MOS you're from. Apply. And I applied and got a call back and interviewed with some officers that were starting at 2 majors, and they liked me and made me the offer. And I had to call like my career field manager at the Pentagon, who manages all EOD slots, and explain to him what this is and why he should like let me move there, even though I'm, getting paid as an EOD guy. And thankfully he was like, this is actually great. Like, I think we need more people to branch out and then come back and bring this information back to our career field. And so I took that, and it was like an E5 I had a line number for E6, like going to the Pentagon to not be an aide or do paperwork, but to actually like do strategy and stuff was super, super exciting. I jumped on that, and that was 2020. COVID happened. So I was one of the few people that got a waiver to PCS during COVID.
That's right. Yeah, like all the bases shut down.
Yep. Yeah. So the general that like sponsored the accelerator signed off that I could PCS over. At this time, I'm still like, actually the EOD shop is shut down. It's running like manning. So like 2 or 4 people. That's it. Everybody else is at home or at the beach or hiking. I'm actually spending all my time at the innovation lab now. We like air medical evacuation unit out of Charleston. That's like the flight surgeons that pick people up and do surgery in flight. They run out of hand sanitizer. We like work with the FDA to get their recipe, and a local distillery donates like $50,000 in ethanol, like alcohol. That's crazy, and we make hand sanitizer like in this dude's living room and deliver it to them so they can keep like picking up patients and doing surgery. And that's like when I start to see the impact thing, I'm like, man, like this is like, I don't know. Again, it's all convoluted, but it's like, I defuse one bomb. There's like people in danger. There's people here, but like I just affect flights like overseas for people getting surgery. Is just like another level. And then so, I went to the Pentagon just like, I'm going to just have a bigger and bigger impact, hopefully. Moved up there during COVID. Really silly, like fully remote. Nobody's in the Pentagon because they don't want you to get the generals sick. But that was great, and it just super eye-opening. I got a lot of access. We spent time with Google. We spent time with Amazon, like trying to learn best practices, talking to industry partners, and that was like the last 2.5 years of my career. And thankfully, again, COVID, like that helped me buckle. 2 things happened. 1, I had like more time at home than I'd ever had, and 2, so many schools went online. And like without that perfect storm, kind of, I don't think I would have gotten like switched out of AMU into a good degree program, right? And so all these schools started popping up that like, yep, we're going fully online. We offer these degrees. And so I went through and found a math. It was like LSU went fully online with math, and Indiana University. And I was like, this is perfect. And so I switched schools. I have a year left. So they let me come in with a year left. I get into this really, really amazing program called Warrior Scholar Project, which I know you're familiar with. Downside, it's COVID, so we don't go in person, which I hear is like really magical. Plus side, like I get to spend like 2 weeks with Princeton professors on Zoom from like the comfort of my home, and meet these amazing students that are at Princeton that I'm like, holy shit, like you guys are here doing this. It's not out of reach. It's not like super abnormal. Learn about the transfer process. And then just get, I think, encouragement from the professors too. Like they want to hear your background. They want to hear your input. And I was like, it's the first time in my life I've felt, I don't know about the high school you went to, but like felt like, yeah, as like a real learning environment.
Yeah.
This is what it is. This is why people pay the money. This is why people hustle to go to these schools.
Yeah, I was in a public regional school. I mean, it was a good school, but I just like didn't care, so I don't think I ever like took advantage of it. Like I think the teachers cared, but it is what it is. But Warrior Scholar, I like very similar to you. It's just like you could just like see the like raw passion from the professors, and it's almost like exhilarating to see that. And it's like a good leader in the service, right? Like when you get a good team leader, you get an NCO who like really cares about their soldiers. It kind of like infects you. Yep. And the inverse of that is true. Likewise, like the professors that Warrior Scholar Project finds, shout out Warrior Scholar Project. You're just like, holy crap, like I want to do this. Yep. So you do Warrior Scholar Project and you're like, how do I get into Princeton? Go Bengals, go Tigers? Tigers.
I do this and I learned about the process, and probably very similar to Stanford, they're like, Princeton's very strict about it though, because I don't know if you know, they opened their transfer process like
1 year
6 years ago. Maybe?
Yeah. It was the year. So I do it, and the year I was transferring, they had announced the next year that they were going to open up the transfer
so it's
process.
like it's crazy. It's still brand new. I think even since I went 2020, so almost 5 years ago now, like they've like doubled or tripled the program size of transfers they take. So, but yeah, they're still very strict on like at best you come in beginning of your sophomore year.
Yeah.
I'm 27. I knew when I got out to be 28. I married. We had just had our first kid. And I was like, I don't think that, like, I want to so bad because I saw the passion. I'm a huge Princeton fan. Like, gosh, I wanted to do it so bad. And I was like, I think it was like, what's the next, like, what can I do that is on par with that, but maybe a little bit forward? And so I do Warrior Scholar Project. In Warrior Scholar Project, I make the decision essentially, and I tell like everybody, I'm like, I don't think this is for me, but like what I've learned is still very valuable. And I think I'm going to go to I'm going to finish my degree and go to grad school. And all of this information will help me in grad school. So like you didn't waste the spot on me. Is what I wanted to communicate to them. So it was great. I had fun, learned a ton. And then again, like parse out, I'm still like, I have 1 year to finish this math degree, and I'm either going to commission or I'm going to go to grad school.
Obviously, like there's the like overall like top 20 schools, but then there's also the like, what do you kind of want to do like thing? And like some schools are legitimately just like better for different industries. And, I had a decision between like on the East Coast versus the West, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And I had this like inkling that I maybe wanted to do startups and all that. And so when I was, picking between the two, I'm like, well, Stanford's known for startups, like pretty prime real estate. And so it became a much easier decision. Also, the other school messed up my financial aid. That's why I'm also not going to say it because I don't want to get in trouble. But they messed up my financial aid, which caused me to fly out there. And I went onto campus, and you walk down Palm Drive, and you're like, oh yeah, I'm going here. Yeah. Like,
immediately.
So you get accepted. This is all while you're still in. Yeah.
So I am, again, I'm like kind of speed running this, and like everybody's telling me I'm crazy. They're like, you were working at the Pentagon. You have a 6-month-old. Yeah. You are coming home and doing 3 or 4 hours of online school a night, and then you're studying for the GMAT and the GRE. So up at 3 a.m., 3 to 6 a.m., GMAT, GRE, MBA, apps. 6 to like 8 is like kids stuff. 8 to 5 is Pentagon. Family stuff, 5 to 7, like eat dinner, and then 7 to midnight is school, like online school, getting my degree. Apply to a good number of schools, like 6 or 7. The interesting thing, I applied before I had my degree because that's just how it shook out. I was like, I'm getting out in March of the next year. So this is like fall. I'm getting out in March of the next year. MBA programs start in September, and like I'll finish my degree in May. And so in all my applications, it was just like, hey, this is where I'm at. I've been working on this degree for 9 years at this point. Like I have 2 classes left. I'm going to pass them. I am dedicated to this. Like you don't have to worry about me, type stuff. And then, I'm like just insane that I got into Stanford. It was like number 1 choice. still like.
Do you remember where
so
you were when you got the letter?
Yeah, so I did SkillBridge, which shout out to that. If you can do that program, please do it. And I got really lucky that a vet that runs a VC firm brought me onto his team. So it was actually my first day of work, and I had to like step out for a phone call and took that, and then came back in, and they were like, "Is everything okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, I just got into Stanford," and they're all stoked, like they're all excited for me, and they're like, "That's great." Before they hired me, they knew I was like, I'm gonna apply to this school and just like preface, so they were very supportive of it. And it was just absolutely life-changing feeling to get that. And then of course, as like legend has it, I get the SLEP offer too to go fly. And so
whatever luck you've got, man, you got to send some my way.
So just, super lucky. And so then, it was like a values conversation, which I'm very thankful for. A lot of my mentors and one particular was just like, all right, why do you want to fly planes? And I'm like, well, like the goals, like astronautics program, flying planes, like yada, 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 yada. And it was like, basically what it came down to is it's elite. Like not a lot of people get to do it. It's like cool, adrenaline rush. And then I feel like I'm having like an impact. And he was like, interesting. So EOD, elite, and just goes through that with me. And I'm like, yes. And he's like, and you're not happy. So maybe it's time to try something different. And honestly, and at the time, like it's 2020, I think it's still true. He's like, the way the world's going, like you might have a statistically higher chance of going to space not in the military at this point. So both very valid points. And I took that offer obviously and decided I was going to go to Stanford, and they were gracious enough to let me in without a degree, but I finished on time and submitted it. And
it'd be last 3 weeks you lose your ID and they're like, actually you got to restart the last semester. Like, no, not again. And it was the same guy from base. Good old callback. You said when we actually first started, you said you're now in your second year. So we're 2025, but you got accepted now I'm getting my timelines confused. You got accepted 2022, 2021?
December 2022.
Got it.
Yep.
And then you're leaving Charleston, coming out to Palo Alto. I'm assuming wife and kids.
DC.
DC. Wife and kids moving with you?
Yep.
Wow. Yeah. How is the transition going from sounds like a pretty intensive year to now? Like, do you feel like you can kind of like relax your shoulders, or is it just like on to the next challenge?
I mean, at that time, like the transition itself was very much on to the next thing. Now, like honestly, a little existential relaxation, right? I think I was lucky enough to do the SkillBridge for 3 months and get hired full time at the firm. The firm was in Baltimore and I live in DC, so I was commuting 2 hours each way. So it was, at that time, it was just the grind continues in the name of learning as much as I can about this industry that I'm interested in. So I did that, and then took like a month off to move the entire family over to Palo Alto. And then, the MBA program kicks off, and it is like insanely busy and demanding. And then on top of that, it's like most classmates are single. They don't have a partner. So you have a partner you have to think about, and then let alone kids that you have to get up in the morning and take them to school and be there at night to tuck them in. So you throw those variables in along with recruiting and that just continued question of like, what do I want to do? Like, is it tech? Is it that? So it was a bit of a grind. And then the beginning of this year, there was like one big thing I wanted to do at Stanford, which is like this, it's a tradition called talk at the business school where you get up and tell your class like a bit of your life story. And I got the job offer and did that within like 2 weeks of each other. So my job following school. And so after that was like, all right, like this is the first time since I was 13 that I have everything that I said that I wanted. And like, what now? So feel a little uneasy, to be honest, but
are you happy?
Great. I'm so, like I can't say I'm not happy. Because I have everything, but I'm wondering at what point like self-fulfillment, right, drives this. And so I think I need to sit with it for a little bit and understand that I've arrived and that's okay.
The existential dread thing I think is very, very real, especially when you kind of like achieve those hallmarks. in life, because I think like thinking back to my time in high school where it's like I didn't even think I was going to get into college or like do anything.
Yeah.
And then suddenly you're like, I remember my first year at Stanford, I had a massive amount of dread for like a lot of reasons. Some of it was like, what now?
Yeah.
And I remember I thought I wanted to do investment banking. I ended up hating it. And I was like, well, if I didn't like that, then like how many other things like will I ever be happy?
Yeah.
But it was like weird because like there was always like, what's the moving of the goalpost of like the thing that I can go reach? But then you kind of hit that spot and you're like, but like, where's the goalpost? Like you're at the goalpost and you're like, there's not really like a strong, because you could be like, well, I can do I can do this, but it's like, but that's like not really a goalpost. It's just now like aspiration. And then you're just like left going, like, I guess I got to like find other things to make me happy. And then that gets like a really scary thing.
I guess I was telling one of my friends yesterday, I was like, I guess I got to find a hobby.
Yeah.
Like literally. Like I can golf, I can, I don't know, paint. Like, what's the thing?
But like, what does the future, look like? I mean, maybe it's not the moving of the goalpost, but I mean, are you thinking like, these are the industry, like, I just want to go explore these industries?
Yeah. I did. I think like I'll echo this, which I'm sure, like, I mean, people see it all over the internet and like military influencers now that like the MBA is the best transition program. Yeah. Obviously harder for enlisted given the bar of like getting your degree, but it is the best transition program hands down. It was, I mean, I got to explore VC before school and realized like, I don't think this lights a fire under me. Get into school and classmates have connections in every industry, whether it's like their parents were huge founders or they came from amazing places. And so you can explore anything. And so I spent my time exploring tech, which I had a great time. It's where I spent my summer internship, exploring entertainment, which I was also interested in.
Called up your friend, Bill Lawrence, and said, hey, I got a favor to call it.
It turns out Hollywood personality is a little too much for me.
Yeah.
And then explored like some startup stuff as well, which I found very fulfilling, but I think just at this stage it felt a little weird. And so I ended up realizing that I didn't have an industry or a focus that I was like really, really specifically like in love with. I just wanted to go do something hard that was going to make a difference to a company. I didn't want to like go be a product manager of like a button on like your security settings on Facebook. I don't care if it pays $300,000. Like it's just not for me. Money's not the thing I'm optimizing for. It is agency and like having an impact. And so I accepted a job as an operator for a holding company. So they buy businesses and I will go be like a COO and a CEO of these businesses. And to me, it's like, it's a little bit of returning to my roots. I think when I looked up in my hometown, I was like, okay, so join the military. Like I'm not going to college, so join the military. That's the way out. So being able to go into a town and make a business that I want kids to graduate from high school and be like, I'm going to go work at this business because they train people to be leaders. They pay above minimum wage, things like that. Like see another way forward if they choose not to serve.
There's so many things that we can talk about. We're coming up on time. I really appreciate our conversation. We'll have to have you on again, New York in the New York studio if you're ever there. But it sounds like things are going well. The luck is continuing and the hard work is paying off. Out of 10, I guess last question, out of 10.
Oh, it's an 8. Like
there we go.
Yeah,
I think that is probably one of the best. This one with the beef jerky as well, I put at a solid 8 as well. Devan, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.